The single dad had always been careful about who he trusted, and the thought of a blind date made him both nervous and curious. He had been juggling work, parenting, and trying to find a little time for himself, and the idea of meeting someone new felt like stepping into a world he didn't know. He had agreed to it with a sense of cautious hope, not expecting much but secretly hoping for something different. That morning he woke up earlier than usual, making sure his child was fed and ready for school before he left. The usual chaos of breakfast, homework, and lost shoes had passed, leaving him with a quiet moment to collect himself. He straightened his shirt, ran a hand through his hair, and glanced in the mirror, wondering what the evening might hold. He arrived at the small, cozy restaurant slightly ahead of time, appreciating the calm before the rush of dinner. The place was not fancy, just warm lights, wooden tables, and soft music that made the atmosphere inviting. He checked his watch and tried to calm the nervous flutter in his chest. The thought of meeting someone who had no idea about his life, his struggles, or his little routines made him feel both exposed and curious. He wondered what she would be like. Would she be kind? Would she understand the messiness of life with a child? Would she see beyond the tiredness, the worries, the small imperfections that made him human? Meanwhile, across town, the woman was preparing herself in her own quiet space. Her apartment was neat, carefully organized, a reflection of the control she liked to maintain in her professional life. Her career had demanded perfection, long hours and tough decisions, leaving little time for vulnerability. Now, in the privacy of her apartment, she allowed herself a moment of nervous anticipation. She was in a wheelchair, a result of a recent accident that had left her adjusting to new routines and limitations. The thought of someone seeing her like this for the first time made her heart beat faster. She knew that first impressions mattered, and the fear of judgment tugged at her confidence. Yet she was determined not to let fear dictate her life. She dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that felt both comfortable and presentable, and practiced a small, polite smile in the mirror. She arrived at the restaurant slightly early, wheeling herself into the space with ease she had been building over weeks of practice. She scanned the room and noticed him almost immediately. He looked approachable, not overly dressed, with a kind face that seemed to carry a gentle warmth. She felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he wouldn't be one of those people who focused on her wheelchair. Maybe he would see her for who she was. Their first moment of recognition was polite, almost formal, as they smiled and nodded at each other. He stood to greet her, extending a hand, and she took it with a firm grip, introducing herself with a calm, friendly tone. There was a slight awkwardness in the air, the kind that often accompanies the start of something new. They guided themselves to a table that offered enough space for her wheelchair, and he carefully pulled out the chair for her to sit comfortably. It was a small gesture, but it mattered. It showed consideration, and she noticed. The waiter arrived to take their orders, and they both laughed softly at the usual indecision of choosing something they might enjoy. Conversation started with the usual questions: work, hobbies, daily life. He spoke about his child, sharing small stories that revealed both humor and the challenges of single parenthood. She listened attentively, genuinely interested, her earlier nervousness easing with each anecdote. She shared her own story, though she kept it light, speaking about her career in ways that revealed her ambition, but also the loneliness that often accompanied it. They were both careful not to overshare too quickly, yet there was a natural curiosity that drew them toward one another. As the evening progressed, they found themselves laughing at small jokes, exchanging smiles that carried more meaning than words could express. The conversation shifted from surface topics to slightly deeper reflections. He asked about her family, her childhood, and she responded with stories of growing up with expectations of success, the pressure to always perform, and the small sacrifices she had made along the way. He shared his own experiences of balancing work and parenthood, the moments of doubt, the long nights, and the little victories that made it all worthwhile. There was a sense of mutual respect forming, an understanding that they were both navigating complicated lives with courage and resilience. During a brief pause in the conversation, she noticed the way he interacted with the restaurant staff, his polite manners and patient demeanor reflecting a kindness that went beyond surface-level politeness. It made her heart lift a little, the realization that this man, in his quiet, unassuming way, had a good heart. She felt a connection forming, one that wasn't based on appearances or status but on genuine human warmth. They ordered dessert, a simple choice that somehow felt significant in its shared simplicity. He picked something he thought she would like, and she appreciated the thoughtfulness, feeling noticed in a way that was rare in her life. They talked about small personal preferences, favorite books, and memories from childhood that brought smiles to their faces. Each story, each shared laugh built a bridge of understanding and trust. At one point, a waiter accidentally spilled a drink nearby, and they both jumped to help, creating a small, shared moment of chaos and laughter. It was not a grand gesture, but it was real, human, and it made them both feel more comfortable. The earlier nervousness faded, replaced by a feeling of ease, as if they had stepped into a small bubble of understanding, temporarily insulated from the outside world. She noticed how attentive he was, not just in conversation but in subtle gestures. He leaned slightly to hear her better, responded thoughtfully, and his eyes held a quiet kindness. She felt seen, not just for her accomplishments or her appearance, but for the person she was with all her fears and hopes. The evening, which had started with cautious curiosity, had transformed into a moment of genuine connection. He, on the other hand, was surprised by his own feelings. He had not expected to feel such comfort with a stranger, and yet there was something in her presence that made him feel calm, understood, and even inspired. Her laughter, her thoughtful responses, and her courage to navigate life despite her recent accident left an impression on him that went deeper than surface attraction. He admired her strength, her honesty, and the way she carried herself with grace. As the night drew to a close, they found themselves reluctant to part ways. There was a sense of unspoken agreement that this was the beginning of something worth exploring. He offered to walk her to her car, carefully maneuvering the wheelchair with a natural ease that demonstrated both consideration and comfort. She felt a warmth in his gesture, a subtle acknowledgement of the care and respect that had defined their evening. Before saying goodbye, they exchanged thoughts about meeting again, both feeling a mix of excitement and cautious hope. The night had unfolded in ways neither had expected, revealing not just compatibility but a deeper sense of mutual understanding. The CEO, who often felt isolated by her position and circumstances, felt a rare sense of relief and joy. The single dad, who had faced countless challenges in his own life, felt a spark of hope and curiosity that he hadn't experienced in years. As they parted ways, each carried a sense of anticipation for the future, reflecting on the small moments that had made the evening memorable. The shared laughter, the thoughtful gestures, the honest conversation, and the quiet moments of connection had created a foundation that felt genuine and promising. They had both stepped out of their comfort zones, navigated uncertainties, and discovered a shared humanity that went beyond appearances or expectations. Walking back to his car, the single dad felt a lightness in his step, a feeling that perhaps life had a way of surprising him when he least expected it. The evening had reminded him of the value of patience, kindness, and openness to new experiences. The CEO, returning to her apartment, reflected on the evening with a mixture of relief and excitement, realizing that vulnerability and authenticity could create unexpected and meaningful connections. Both had experienced a night that felt real, human, and full of potential, setting the stage for the journey that lay ahead. After that first meeting, both of them found it difficult to stop thinking about each other. The single dad kept replaying their conversations in his mind, smiling at her laugh, and remembering the way she had listened to him with real attention. He realized that he rarely met someone who made him feel so understood without judgment. His life was full of responsibilities, and often there was little room for personal connection. Yet the memory of her words and presence lingered like a warm light. She, too, felt a strange mixture of excitement and relief. She had expected a polite but ordinary evening, yet she had experienced something unexpectedly comforting. His patience, his warmth, and the ease with which he shared small personal details made her feel seen, in a way she had not felt for a long time. The wheelchair, which had been a source of anxiety for her, did not seem to create distance. Instead, it became part of a shared reality where honesty and respect mattered more than appearances. A few days later, he called her, his voice carrying a mix of nervousness and hope. They spoke for a long time, laughing at small things, sharing experiences from their week, and continuing the gentle flow of conversation that had begun on their first date. It was easy, natural, and he felt a sense of connection that made him want to know more about her life, her thoughts, and her feelings. She appreciated the call as much as he did. It was a reassurance that the connection they had felt was not limited to one evening. She felt the tension of her daily life ease in his presence, even through a phone conversation. They made plans to meet again, this time for a more relaxed, informal setting, somewhere they could feel comfortable and free from expectations. When they met again, it was in a quiet park, where children were playing and the sound of birds filled the air. He had brought his child along, wanting to introduce her gently to a part of his life that was important to him. She felt a mix of curiosity and nervousness, wondering how the interaction would unfold. She knew that connecting with his child would require patience and warmth, qualities she was willing to offer. The child was cautious at first, observing her from a distance, curious about the wheelchair and about someone new entering their life. She smiled gently, engaging in simple conversation, asking small questions, and allowing the child to take the lead. Her patience and genuine interest won the child over slowly, creating moments of laughter and shared play that felt natural and spontaneous. She realized that this part of his life, which could have been intimidating, was actually a chance to see a different side of him, a side filled with care, responsibility, and gentle love. He watched her interactions carefully, noticing the way she adjusted to the child's energy, how she spoke with kindness, and how she allowed the child to express themselves freely. He felt a sense of admiration growing, a quiet recognition of someone who could balance strength with sensitivity. It was rare, he thought, to meet someone who could navigate life with such balance and yet remain humble and approachable. As the afternoon progressed, they shared small stories and experiences, continuing to build a deeper understanding of each other. She talked about her career challenges, the moments of doubt, and the ways she had learned to cope with stress and responsibility. He shared his own experiences, the struggles of parenting, the sacrifices made, and the small joys that made life meaningful. Each story revealed not just facts about their lives, but the values, priorities, and emotions that guided them. They found themselves sitting on a park bench, the child playing nearby, sharing a quiet moment together. He turned to her and asked more personal questions, not invasive, but thoughtful, showing that he was genuinely interested in understanding her beyond the surface. She responded with honesty, speaking about fears, dreams, and small regrets that shaped her daily choices. There was a trust forming between them, built not on dramatic gestures but on consistent attention and genuine curiosity. During a short walk, a minor mishap occurred. She tried to navigate a small incline and struggled slightly with the wheelchair. He immediately offered his assistance, steadying the chair and guiding her carefully. She felt a warmth spread through her at the thoughtfulness and instinctive care he showed. It was not a heroic act, but a simple human response that demonstrated respect and consideration. She realized that he did not see her as fragile or defined by her disability, but as someone deserving of support and understanding. They returned to the bench, sitting in companionable silence for a few moments, appreciating the peaceful environment. The conversation shifted to lighter topics, with laughter returning naturally. They shared small personal anecdotes, favorite memories, and dreams for the future. It was an easy rhythm, the kind that comes when two people are genuinely interested in knowing each other without pressure or pretense. The child, now more comfortable, ran to them with a small flower picked from the grass. She accepted it with genuine delight, and he watched the interaction with a sense of quiet pride. He saw the way she embraced simple moments with sincerity and warmth, a quality that was becoming increasingly meaningful to him. The afternoon, simple as it was, reinforced the connection that had begun on their first date. It was a reminder that meaningful relationships were often built on patience, shared experiences, and mutual respect rather than grand gestures. As the sun began to set, they started to leave the park, navigating back toward the car. He offered assistance with the wheelchair again, and she accepted with gratitude, appreciating the ease and naturalness of his support. She noticed how he balanced his protective instincts with respect for her independence, a quality that made her feel safe without feeling controlled. It was a delicate balance, and he managed it with an instinctive understanding of her needs. They parted ways that evening with a sense of anticipation and comfort. There was no rush, no dramatic declaration, just the quiet acknowledgement that their connection was growing and meaningful. She reflected on the day with a sense of warmth, recognizing that the kindness, patience, and empathy he displayed were qualities she deeply valued. He in turn felt a quiet sense of hope and curiosity, realizing that he wanted to continue exploring this connection and see where it could lead. In the days that followed, they continued to communicate, exchanging messages that were thoughtful, humorous, and reflective of their growing understanding of each other. Each message built upon the last, creating a consistent thread of connection that felt genuine and unforced. They shared experiences from their daily lives, small victories, challenges, and moments of reflection. Deepening the bond that had begun in the restaurant and park, she began to notice subtle changes in herself. She felt more relaxed, more open to vulnerability, and more willing to share her authentic thoughts and feelings. His presence provided a sense of reassurance and calm, a reminder that trust could be built gradually and naturally. He in turn found himself more attuned to the small joys in life, appreciating moments of connection and kindness that he might have overlooked before. Their interactions reminded him that life, despite its challenges, held opportunities for meaningful relationships that were both grounding and uplifting. As the second part of their story unfolded, it became clear that their connection was more than just initial attraction. It was rooted in mutual respect, shared values, and the quiet understanding that came from genuine attention and empathy. Each encounter, each conversation, and each small gesture reinforced the foundation of trust and warmth that was slowly forming between them. The female CEO, navigating her own personal challenges, began to see that vulnerability was not weakness but a bridge to deeper human connection. The single dad, balancing the demands of parenthood, realized that openness and curiosity could lead to unexpected joy and companionship. Together, they were discovering that meaningful relationships often required patience, understanding, and the willingness to meet someone fully, without pretense or expectation. By the end of this part of their journey, both felt a sense of anticipation for the future. They had experienced moments of connection, laughter, empathy, and shared responsibility that hinted at the potential for something lasting. There was no rush, no pressure, just a quiet understanding that they were building something real, grounded in human warmth and respect. It was a reminder that sometimes the most meaningful experiences in life come from the simplest, most authentic interactions, and that the bonds formed through empathy and understanding could create a sense of hope and possibility that endured beyond a single meeting. As time passed, their connection grew stronger. They had started to see more of each other, meeting in parks, cafes, and quiet corners of the city where they could talk freely without distractions. Each encounter brought a deeper understanding of who they were beyond the surface, allowing them to share small pieces of their inner lives that they often kept hidden from the world. The single dad began to notice how her confidence and strength were paired with moments of vulnerability that made her feel real and approachable. She, in turn, saw that his patience and quiet kindness were more than just good manners. They were the reflection of a deeply caring heart shaped by responsibility and love. One afternoon, they decided to take a short trip to a nearby lake. It was a place neither of them had been before, and it offered a chance to explore new surroundings together. The single dad brought along his child, who was thrilled at the prospect of adventure and couldn't stop chattering about ducks, fish, and the small wooden pier that stretched over the water. She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness, wondering how the outing would unfold with the energetic child present. However, the warmth of their previous encounters gave her confidence, and she focused on enjoying the moment rather than worrying about appearances or accidents. Upon arrival, the scenery was breathtaking. The calm water reflected the bright sky, and the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze created a soothing soundtrack. They found a quiet spot on the shore where the child could play safely, and she wheeled herself carefully over the soft grass, appreciating the small independence she still had despite her wheelchair. The single dad watched her with quiet admiration, noticing how she handled herself with grace and confidence, even in new and unfamiliar surroundings. They spent the afternoon exploring the lake's edge, throwing small pebbles into the water and watching the ripples expand. The child laughed and ran ahead, discovering hidden treasures like smooth stones and small wildflowers, and they both joined in the playful exploration. She began to feel a sense of ease she had not experienced in a long time. The combination of laughter, fresh air, and the simple joy of discovery allowed her to relax and enjoy the presence of two people who were becoming increasingly important to her. As they walked along a narrow path, she encountered a small difficulty. The ground was uneven, and she struggled to move her wheelchair over the slight incline. He immediately noticed and stepped in to assist, steadying the chair and guiding her carefully. She felt a rush of gratitude and surprise at his instinctive response. He did not hesitate or make her feel incapable. Instead, his actions were calm, respectful, and thoughtful. It was a simple moment, but it spoke volumes about his character and the depth of care he carried. Later, they found a spot on a bench overlooking the water. They sat together in comfortable silence for a while, watching the ripples of the lake and listening to the faint sounds of birds and laughter from nearby families. The conversation shifted naturally, moving from shared observations to more personal topics. He spoke about the challenges of single parenthood, the constant balancing act, and the moments of doubt that sometimes kept him awake at night. She listened intently, offering empathy and understanding, and shared her own struggles with her accident, the loneliness of leadership, and the pressures she faced daily. The exchange was gentle, respectful, and sincere, a reminder of how trust grows when people truly listen to each other. A small incident on the path back to the parking lot tested their dynamic in a surprising way. A family with a stroller was blocking the narrow path, making it difficult for her to pass. He stepped forward immediately, offering to maneuver her wheelchair carefully around them. The situation was simple, but it highlighted the attentiveness and readiness he had to assist without making her feel dependent. She was struck by the thoughtfulness, the patience, and the unspoken understanding that he was not just considerate, but genuinely respectful of her independence. The child noticed the small gestures, too, and smiled at the ease and comfort between them. She felt a sense of inclusion and warmth, recognizing that both adults were attentive, kind, and considerate. Moments like these, she realized, were far more valuable than grand gestures. They were authentic, grounded, and human. As they made their way back to the car, the CEO felt a mixture of gratitude, admiration, and a growing sense of attachment that surprised her. She had not expected to feel so connected so quickly. Yet the ease of their interactions and the sincerity of his actions made the bond undeniable. On the drive back, they talked about small dreams and aspirations. He shared simple wishes for the future, moments with his child, experiences of travel, quiet evenings filled with laughter and conversation. She shared hers, more nuanced and complex, reflecting her career, her personal growth, and the desire to connect deeply with people who understood her beyond her title. They laughed together at shared fantasies and small imaginations, creating a playful and human intimacy that further strengthened their bond. The evening concluded with a quiet dinner at a small local cafe. They ordered simple dishes, the kind of food that was comforting rather than elaborate. Conversation flowed naturally, punctuated by laughter, thoughtful observations, and gentle teasing. Each moment reinforced the growing connection between them, creating a sense of partnership that was rooted in respect, empathy, and shared human experience. After dinner, they walked slowly toward the car, enjoying the cool evening air. The single dad held the wheelchair steady as she maneuvered, showing attentiveness without overstepping. She felt a sense of reassurance and warmth, recognizing that he instinctively understood the balance between support and independence. It was a subtle yet meaningful demonstration of care, and it left a lasting impression. As they said their goodbyes, there was no rush or dramatic declaration, only a quiet understanding that the day had deepened their connection. She smiled, feeling both comfort and excitement, while he felt a sense of hope and curiosity for what lay ahead. They parted with the knowledge that this was more than a passing interaction. It was the continuation of a growing relationship, grounded in authenticity, empathy, and genuine interest. In the days that followed, they continued to communicate regularly, sharing small updates, reflections on their time together, and insights from their daily lives. Each message was thoughtful and reflective, reinforcing the bond that had been established during their outings. She began to feel more at ease in expressing herself, realizing that vulnerability did not lead to judgment but rather to deeper connection. He discovered a sense of joy in sharing his life openly, appreciating that someone truly listened and understood without pretense. The CEO began to notice subtle changes in her own perspective. She felt lighter, more open, and willing to engage in new experiences without fear of judgment or inadequacy. His presence offered a sense of grounding, reminding her that meaningful connections were built on consistent, human-centered interactions rather than grand gestures or superficial impressions. She felt a growing trust, a sense of hope, and an appreciation for the simple, genuine ways in which he showed care and attention. The single dad also experienced change. He became more attuned to the nuances of communication, the small gestures that carried significant weight, and the value of shared presence. He appreciated that authentic relationships required patience, empathy, and an openness to the other person's experiences and emotions. Their growing bond reminded him that even in the midst of responsibility and routine, there was room for connection, joy, and emotional depth. As part 3 of their story unfolded, the pattern of shared experiences, thoughtful gestures, and meaningful conversations established a solid foundation for what was becoming a deeply human connection. Their interactions, grounded in empathy, respect, and shared attention, were building a bridge of trust and intimacy. Neither rushed the process, and both allowed the relationship to develop organically, appreciating each step along the way. The CEO reflected on the beauty of these small, consistent moments. She realized that connection was not measured by dramatic acts or external validation, but by the simple, sincere ways people engage with one another. His actions and words showed attentiveness, care, and respect that went beyond surface-level kindness. She felt valued not for her achievements or appearances, but for her authentic self. He, in turn, felt the deepening significance of their relationship. Her confidence, warmth, and vulnerability were qualities he admired and respected. He realized that the connection they were forming had the potential to evolve into something lasting, grounded in mutual understanding and shared humanity. The trust they had begun to establish in restaurants, parks, and small adventures was reinforcing a sense of security, curiosity, and hope for the future. By the end of this part of their journey, both were aware that they were moving beyond initial impressions and casual encounters. They had created a shared space of understanding, empathy, and human connection that was growing stronger with each meeting. Their story was unfolding slowly, authentically, and with a deepening sense of purpose and meaning. Part 3 concluded with the acknowledgement that their bond was real, meaningful, and full of potential, setting the stage for the transformative experiences that lay ahead in the next chapters of their lives. The following weekend, they decided to spend a day together in the city, enjoying simple activities that allowed them to learn more about each other while keeping things relaxed. He suggested visiting a small art exhibit, knowing that she enjoyed cultural experiences, and she appreciated that he thought about her interests. They met outside the gallery, the air crisp and filled with the scents of autumn leaves. She wheeled herself along the sidewalk and he walked beside her, talking easily and pointing out interesting details in the architecture as they passed. There was a comfortable rhythm to their interaction, a balance of independence and support that neither forced but both naturally fell into. Inside the gallery, they moved slowly between exhibits, taking their time to appreciate each piece of art. She paused to read the descriptions aloud, sharing her insights, and he listened, asking questions and offering his own observations. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, punctuated by laughter and quiet moments of reflection. She noticed how attentive he was, not just to her words but to her reactions and expressions. It made her feel valued, as if her thoughts mattered in a way that was often missing in her high-pressure professional life. The child tagged along, curious and full of energy, exploring the corners of the gallery with wide eyes. She approached them with questions and comments, and they both engaged, creating an environment of warmth and inclusion. It was a small, ordinary moment, but it demonstrated the ease with which they could adapt to each other's worlds, respecting each individual while sharing the experience together. After the exhibit, they walked to a nearby cafe for lunch. The casual setting allowed for conversation that was less structured and more spontaneous. He shared a story about a funny incident with his child, causing both her and the child to laugh heartily. She responded with a small tale from her own life, revealing a side that was rarely visible to others, humorous, lighthearted, and self-deprecating. They both enjoyed the genuine laughter, recognizing the importance of these simple, joyful moments in forming a connection. While eating, they observed the people around them, commenting softly on little quirks and interactions. She noticed how he had a habit of subtly helping those in need, whether it was offering a chair to someone struggling with a stroller or guiding a confused tourist. His kindness was quiet and unassuming, but it left a strong impression on her. She realized that these small gestures spoke volumes about the person he was, far more than words could convey. Once lunch was over, they decided to take a walk along a nearby pedestrian street lined with small shops. She enjoyed browsing, and he followed patiently, offering opinions when asked and stepping back when she wanted space to look around. The child darted ahead and back, excited by colorful displays and little trinkets, and they both responded with encouragement and attention, fostering an atmosphere of mutual care and respect. At one point, she stopped at a shop displaying handcrafted pottery. She admired a small vase but hesitated to lift it due to the wheelchair. He noticed immediately and suggested gently picking it up together, supporting her without taking control. The small collaboration made her smile, and she felt a sense of connection through the simple act of sharing a moment of curiosity and appreciation. She realized that he intuitively understood the balance between helping and allowing her independence, and it left her feeling respected and empowered. Later, as they moved down the street, they stumbled upon a small outdoor performance, a musician playing a violin, filling the evening air with soft melodic tunes. They paused to listen, letting the music wash over them. The child swayed to the rhythm, clapping occasionally, and they joined in, creating an impromptu shared moment of joy. She noticed the gentle way he encouraged the child to participate, never forcing but guiding with patience and care. It was a natural display of his nurturing instincts, which she found deeply moving. As dusk approached, they decided to sit on a bench nearby, overlooking the river that ran through the city. The setting sun cast golden reflections on the water, and the quiet ambiance allowed for more intimate conversation. He asked her about her fears and dreams, not in a probing way, but with genuine curiosity and respect. She spoke honestly, revealing the insecurity she carried from her accident and the pressures of her career. She admitted how vulnerable she sometimes felt, how the wheelchair made her self-conscious despite her confidence, and how difficult it was to trust new people. He listened attentively, responding with empathy and reassurance. He shared his own moments of doubt, the sleepless nights worrying about the child and the challenges of finding balance in life. The conversation was honest, heartfelt, and grounding. She felt a sense of relief, realizing that she could speak openly without fear of judgment. His reactions were calm, supportive, and understanding, creating a safe space for her to express herself fully. The evening deepened as they discussed hopes for the future. She talked about wanting to find balance between career and personal life, to connect with someone who truly understood her beyond her professional identity. He spoke about wanting companionship, someone who could share in the joys and struggles of life and perhaps even form a meaningful family dynamic. The alignment of values and intentions became increasingly clear, reinforcing the bond that had been growing between them. As night fell, a gentle rain began, and they sought shelter under a small awning. She felt a mix of amusement and gratitude at the unexpected turn in the weather. He quickly moved the wheelchair to a safer spot and offered her a small smile, his calmness making the situation feel untroubled. The child laughed at the rain and they both joined in, sharing the simple pleasure of the moment. It was ordinary, yet it became extraordinary because of the shared experience and emotional connection. The single dad noticed her hesitation in moving through the rain and instinctively offered guidance without overstepping. She appreciated the subtlety and thoughtfulness, recognizing that he respected her independence while still providing support when necessary. In that moment, she realized how rare it was to meet someone who could navigate the complexities of human interaction with such balance, empathy, and authenticity. They decided to continue walking, embracing the rain and letting the moment unfold naturally. Conversations became lighter again, filled with humor, playful teasing, and observations about life's small absurdities. She felt a freedom she rarely allowed herself, laughing genuinely and engaging without self-consciousness. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction in witnessing her relax and enjoy the moment, realizing that trust and comfort were growing steadily between them. Eventually, they found their way back to the car. He assisted her gently into the wheelchair and maneuvered carefully to ensure safety and comfort. The child ran ahead, excitedly recounting the day's events, and both adults listened with genuine interest and encouragement. They shared smiles, subtle touches, and quiet words of appreciation for the day they had spent together. It was a culmination of small, meaningful interactions that collectively strengthened their connection. Before parting for the evening, they found a quiet spot near the car and paused. He looked at her with a mixture of admiration, warmth, and curiosity, and she returned the gaze with trust, gratitude, and a hint of excitement. Words were few, but the emotional exchange was profound. They understood each other in ways that did not require explanation, and the mutual recognition of respect, empathy, and care was palpable. The CEO realized that she felt a rare sense of security and acceptance, emotions she had longed for but seldom experienced. The single dad understood that he felt a growing admiration and affection, not based on appearances or status, but on shared experiences, kindness, and authenticity. They acknowledged the significance of these feelings quietly, letting them settle naturally rather than forcing expression prematurely. As they said goodbye, there was no rush, no dramatic gestures, only the calm acknowledgement that the day had been meaningful and transformative. They parted with a sense of anticipation for future encounters, each carrying the warmth and insight gained from the shared experiences. The evening reinforced their understanding of the value of patience, empathy, and thoughtful attention in building genuine human connection. In the days following this outing, their communication continued seamlessly. Messages and calls were filled with reflections, light-hearted exchanges, and deeper discussions about hopes and fears. Each interaction reinforced the foundation laid by their shared experiences, highlighting the importance of consistency, attentiveness, and respect in nurturing a meaningful relationship. She noticed the subtle shifts within herself. The vulnerability she once feared became a bridge to deeper trust. The cautious optimism she held was now accompanied by a growing sense of hope, and her confidence was bolstered by the knowledge that someone appreciated her authentic self. He observed similar transformations, recognizing that the relationship was fostering openness, joy, and emotional depth that enriched both his life and that of his child. Part 4 of their story highlighted the significance of everyday moments and the ways in which care, attention, and empathy create meaningful bonds. Simple gestures, guiding a wheelchair, listening attentively, sharing laughter, and supporting a child, became profound expressions of human connection. The combination of these moments, grounded in authenticity and respect, continued to strengthen the relationship, preparing both for deeper experiences and a future that held promise, understanding, and shared growth. The following weekend, they planned another day together, this time with a sense of anticipation that neither had felt in a long time. They agreed to meet at a small, quiet park on the outskirts of the city. The air was crisp and the sun shone softly, casting warm light across the autumn leaves scattered on the ground. She arrived first, wheeling herself along the path with practiced ease, and he soon followed with the child in tow. The sight of them approaching brought a smile to her face, a mixture of excitement and comfort settling within her. They started the day with a leisurely walk through the park. The child ran ahead, occasionally glancing back to make sure they were following. She felt a warmth in her chest, observing the bond between father and child and appreciating the care and attention he gave so naturally. As they walked, they exchanged light conversation, talking about small observations, the changing colors of the leaves, and the subtle sounds of nature around them. The rhythm was easy, their interactions flowing without effort or pretense. As they reached a small clearing, she paused to take in the scenery. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves and the sunlight filtered through the branches, creating patterns on the ground. She felt a sense of calm and connection to the world around her, a feeling that had been rare in recent months. He joined her, standing beside the wheelchair, and they shared a quiet moment of appreciation. Words were not needed. The shared presence was enough to reinforce the growing bond between them. The child, eager for adventure, spotted a small wooden bridge over a shallow stream. With laughter and excitement, they ran ahead, and she followed with his help. He maneuvered the wheelchair carefully, guiding her with a steady hand while she maintained control where possible. The coordination between them felt natural, a dance of trust and attentiveness that reflected the understanding they had built over their previous encounters. She realized that this seamless cooperation was not just practical. It was a subtle display of care and respect that spoke volumes about his character. They spent the next hour exploring the park, discovering hidden corners, small gardens, and quiet spots by the water They shared observations, stories, and gentle teasing, laughing at minor mishaps and enjoying the simplicity of being together. She admired how he interacted with the child, always patient, encouraging, and attentive, never rushing or dismissing questions. His ability to balance responsibility with playfulness impressed her deeply, and she felt a growing admiration and respect for the way he handled life with grace and thoughtfulness. At one point, they came across a small group of elderly people struggling to move a heavy cart across the grass. Without hesitation, he offered his help, guiding them gently and providing support where needed. She watched, touched by the instinctive kindness and generosity he displayed. The act was simple yet profound, reinforcing the impression that he was someone who cared deeply about others, not just through words, but through meaningful actions. She realized that his character was consistent, extending beyond their private interactions into the world around him. The child, curious as ever, asked questions about their surroundings and the people they encountered. She engaged with the questions patiently, sharing insights and stories that sparked the child's imagination. He watched her interactions closely, noticing her warmth, attentiveness, and genuine interest in the child's thoughts. It was a subtle but significant moment, revealing her capacity for empathy, patience, and connection. He felt a deep sense of appreciation for the qualities she displayed, recognizing the potential for a shared life that included understanding, cooperation, and care. As the afternoon progressed, they settled near the stream, sitting on a small bench where they could watch the water flow gently. Conversation turned to more personal topics, their earlier discussions serving as a foundation for deeper exploration. She spoke about her hopes for the future, the desire to balance her career with meaningful personal relationships, and the longing for a connection built on trust and mutual respect. He shared his aspirations as well, describing the kind of partnership he envisioned, one where support, understanding, and shared experiences formed the core of the relationship. During this conversation, she admitted a lingering fear about how her accident and wheelchair might affect her relationships. She spoke openly about moments of insecurity and vulnerability, revealing thoughts she rarely shared with anyone. He listened attentively, responding with empathy, reassurance, and thoughtful insight. His reactions were calm, supportive, and genuine, providing a sense of safety and acceptance that she had seldom experienced. In that moment, she realized that she could trust him, not only with her words but with her feelings and fears. They paused to watch the child play near the water, laughing and splashing gently. The sight brought a smile to both their faces, a shared sense of joy and connection. The child's laughter was a reminder of the small, meaningful moments that often define life more than grand achievements or dramatic events. They exchanged a glance, an unspoken acknowledgement of the bond they were nurturing and the importance of patience, empathy, and attentiveness in sustaining it. Later, they decided to move to a nearby cafe for a light snack and warm drinks. The casual environment allowed them to continue their conversation in a relaxed setting. She ordered a cup of tea and he chose coffee, while the child picked a small pastry. As they settled at a table by the window, they continued their exchange of thoughts, feelings, and experiences. She spoke about the challenges of maintaining balance in her professional life, and he shared the ongoing responsibilities of parenting. Both listened with attentiveness, offering empathy, encouragement, and understanding. The conversation eventually turned to shared experiences from their pasts, stories that revealed the events and choices that had shaped them. She described moments of resilience, determination, and personal growth, while he recounted instances of perseverance, patience, and the small victories that had marked his journey as a single parent. These narratives were not shared for display or judgment, but as honest reflections, deepening their understanding of each other's values, character, and emotional depth. A small mishap occurred when a waiter accidentally spilled a drink near their table. Without hesitation, he assisted in cleaning up the mess, ensuring that she and the child were unharmed. She observed his calm and proactive approach, noting how effortlessly he handled the situation without creating stress or tension. It was a subtle yet telling moment, reinforcing the impression of a man who was reliable, thoughtful, and composed under minor challenges. As the day drew to a close, they decided to take a short walk along the nearby riverbank. The fading sunlight cast golden hues over the water, and the gentle breeze carried the fresh scent of the river. She felt a profound sense of peace, a rare blend of comfort, trust, and anticipation for the future. He wheeled her along the path with ease, both of them moving in sync with the child occasionally darting ahead and back. The simplicity of the moment, combined with the depth of their connection, made the experience memorable and meaningful. They paused on a small wooden dock that extended into the river, watching the ripples and reflections in the water. He turned to her and asked gently about her thoughts on the day, her feelings about their growing relationship and her hopes moving forward. She responded with honesty and openness, expressing gratitude for his thoughtfulness, admiration for his character, and excitement for the potential they shared. He listened with full attention, validating her words and emotions with genuine understanding and care. The child, now tired from the day's activities, leaned against them for comfort. They shared a quiet, reflective moment, feeling the weight and significance of the day's experiences. She realized that she was not only accepted but appreciated for her authentic self, and he felt a deep sense of connection and hope for the future. The mutual understanding and respect that had grown over weeks of shared experiences had reached a profound depth, creating a strong emotional foundation. On the walk back to the car, they encountered a small incline. Without hesitation, he assisted her with the wheelchair, ensuring safety and comfort. She felt a mixture of gratitude and admiration, recognizing that his support was always offered without diminishing her independence. The balance between care and respect was seamless, reflecting a profound understanding of partnership and empathy. As they prepared to leave, they paused to take in the final moments of the day. The sky was tinged with soft shades of orange and pink, reflecting the calm and warmth they felt within. Words were few, but the silence was filled with understanding, trust, and unspoken appreciation. They acknowledged the significance of the experiences shared and the depth of the connection that had formed between them. Before parting for the evening, they discussed plans for future encounters, both expressing excitement and curiosity for what lay ahead. The CEO felt a sense of reassurance and hope, recognizing that vulnerability and openness were met with genuine understanding. The single dad felt a profound admiration and trust, appreciating her authenticity, warmth, and capacity for empathy. They parted with a quiet sense of anticipation, each carrying the emotional resonance of the day and the growing significance of their relationship. In the days that followed, their communication continued naturally, filled with reflections, gentle humor, and thoughtful exchanges. They shared moments from their daily lives, updates on the child's activities, and insights into their personal experiences. Each interaction reinforced the trust, understanding, and emotional depth they had cultivated, preparing both for deeper levels of connection and shared growth. The CEO began to feel a profound shift in her perception of relationships, understanding that true connection was built on consistent empathy, patience, and attentiveness rather than grand gestures or superficial appearances. She appreciated that he saw her for who she truly was, including her vulnerabilities and strengths, and valued her authenticity. The single dad, in turn, recognized the transformative impact of her presence, noticing how her openness, thoughtfulness, and warmth enhanced his life and provided a sense of shared purpose and companionship. Part 5 concluded with a deepening understanding that meaningful relationships are formed through small, consistent, and sincere actions. The moments of laughter, shared exploration, gentle support, and honest conversation had collectively created a bond built on empathy, trust, and mutual respect. Both had experienced growth, emotional connection, and the anticipation of a future together that was grounded in human why.